Good morning, girls and boys. This is different, isn't it? We get to be together through our technology today. But if we were gathered together, I would ask you, how are you? So I'm going to ask you, how are you? I hope you're doing okay. In times like these that are different, it's really important that you share how you're feeling with those who love you and who are around you. And lucky for us, we have a God who is always with us and who thinks of us as his treasure and who is always ready to listen to anything that we want to talk to him about. Today, I want to share a story with you. Some of you have heard this story before, but it's really important for us as we gather together in different places that we remember that God is with us. We have been talking about in Bible study in our Sunday school classes about David and the Psalms, which are a great way for us to read about King David's feelings and how some of those feelings are our feelings too. And we have been talking about his son, King Solomon, who was going to build the temple. Remember, King David could not build the temple, but his son Solomon was going to build the temple. So I have a story to read to you today. It's called The Garden, the Curtain, and the Cross. A very long time ago, right here in this world, there was a garden. In the garden, everything was wonderful. The world was full of laughing and playing and smiling and fun. There was nothing bad, ever. There was no one sad, ever. And best of all, God was there. Hello, Adam. Hello, Eve. He had made it all, and he was in charge of it all. He loved it all. People could see God and speak to God and just enjoy being with God. Eve, God's here. He wants us to walk with him again. How cool is that? Yay! I bet it's going to be even more amazing than yesterday. It was wonderful to live with God. But then, one day, the people did a terrible thing. They decided they didn't want to do what God said. They decided they wanted a world without God in charge. God calls this sin. Sin spoils things. So sin has no place in God's wonderful world. God said to the people, "You can't live with me in my garden anymore." So he sent them outside. To show the people they had to stay outside, God put some warrior angels in front of the garden, and the angels were like a big keep out sign. Now, things were sometimes bad and people were sometimes sad, but people still kept sinning because they didn't want God to be in charge. So no one could come into God's wonderful place. God said, because of your sin, you can't come in. God's people wanted to remember, and God wanted people to remember that it is wonderful to live with him. But because of your sin, you can't come in. So he told the people to build a special building called his temple where he would live. In the middle of the temple was the most wonderful place in the world, the place where God was, with nothing bad and nothing sad. It was very exciting. But then God told people to put a big curtain around his wonderful place. The curtain had pictures of warrior angels on it. It was a big keep out sign. For hundreds of years, the temple curtain reminded people that God said, "It is wonderful to live with him, but because of your sin, you can't come in." Babies became grown-ups and had babies, and those babies became grown-ups and had babies, and those babies became grown-ups and had babies. And hundreds of summers and winters passed by, and the keep-out curtain stayed in the temple. Then one day, God's Son came to live in this world as a person. He was named Jesus. Jesus always did what God said. Jesus never sinned, and Jesus visited the temple where the keep-out curtain hung. Jesus knew that things were sometimes bad and sometimes sad, and Jesus said that God had sent him to open the way back to God's wonderful place, where there would be nothing bad and no one sad, but people still didn't want to let God be in charge, so they decided to put Jesus on a cross to die. It was the most bad thing that had ever happened, and it was the most sad day of all time, but Jesus had a plan. He had always planned to die on the cross. What a strange plan. Why would God's Son plan to die? On the cross, Jesus took our sin, all the bad things we do, all the sad things they cause. Jesus took them all from us. And when he did, something amazing, astonishing, astounding happened. The curtain tore. God had ripped up the keep out sign. God's wonderful place is open again because Jesus died. We can go in. After Jesus died, his friends put him in a tomb. They were very sad. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then, the next morning, Jesus' friends went to see his body in the tomb. And it wasn't there. A little later on, friends were all together, and suddenly, Jesus was there. Suddenly, his friends weren't sad. Now, they were so happy. God had brought Jesus back to life so that he could live in God's wonderful place forever and ever. And Jesus has sent everyone an invitation to come and live with him there too, he tells us. God says it was wonderful to live with him, but because of your sin, you can't come in. But I died on the cross to take your sin, so all my friends can come in. We can live with God forever. There will be nothing bad and no one sad. We will see God and speak to God and just enjoy being with God just as he planned. It will be wonderful to live with him, and it's all because of Jesus. We will say every day, "Thank you, Jesus. You're amazing." And you can start saying that today. I wonder what part of this story you liked the best. I wonder what part of this story is about you. I wonder if there's any part of this story that we could take out and still have all the important things that we need. This story reminded me today that God isn't in a building. God doesn't just stay in the temple, does he? God isn't just with us when we are at church, is he? God is with you there, and he's with me here. And I have a little saying that I want to teach you that you can remember this week. And it says, God be with you here. God be with you there. God be with you here. God be with you there. God's love is always holding you tight, even when you're out of sight. I want to tell you that I will be checking in with you a couple times during the week. Mr. Jimmy and I are working on something so that Sunday we'll get to see you all on Sunday for Kids Church this way. But I want, sometimes in times like these, people talk about looking for the helpers. So I want you to look for helpers, and even better, maybe you and your family could be the helpers this week. And I would love for you to send me a video or send an email of how you and your family are being the helpers and how God is using you to be his light in the world during this kind of strange time. Okay, I love you. I wish that we were together in person so we could fist bump and high five. But until we can, know that you are loved.